I'm Christine, welcome to Book Talk. Today we're discussing Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. I finished the book, you guys. I finished the book. I finished it. Took me 5 days and 13 pages of notes, but I finished it. It was fantastic. If you haven't read Throne of Glass, which is the first book in the series, you're missing out. There's gonna be 6 books. This is book 4. The first book is Throne of Glass. If you don't know what it's about, right here. Here's my book talk. I also have a book talk for Crown of Midnight. I also got a book talk for Air of Fire. So much happened in this book. The books get better and better as you go along. So the first one is good, and then the second one is great, and then the third one is fantastic, and this one is fucking fabulous. So this is in fact the second time I've recorded this book talk. So if it does switch back and forth between me and a psychotically emotional yelling person, that's also me. That's first time around me. I decided we should both be here just in case she goes off the rails. I've been bringing this book everywhere with me. It's like 50 pounds. These notes are beautiful. There was this one day that I went to Jersey Mike's for lunch and I brought my book and there was a huge line. So I wanted to save myself a table. And I threw my notes down on the table thinking, you know, no one's gonna steal my notes. Those 10 minutes that I was online, separated from my notes, were the longest 10 minutes. I kept trying to check on them and see if the line eventually went out of view of the tables. And I'm just thinking, what was I thinking? Like, I could buy another book. I can't buy those notes. There's 10 pages of notes, those are precious. Someone could just take them. It was rough, guys, it was rough. When I got to that table and those notes were still there safe and sound, the relief. So being that this is the 4th book in the series, there's not much I can say up in here before the spoilery section, except that you should really, really read this series. It's so good. So I'm gonna go into spoilers because I am busting at the seams to discuss the crap that went down in this. So bye non-spoilery people, do not stay. Go and read the book and come back and we can discuss it together, okay? Okay, bye non-spoilery people. Bye. I love how in the first Selena chapter of the book, Sarah makes sure to use the name Aelin about 8 times in the span of 4 pages. Aelin, let's say it together. Aelin. 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 I've picked a name. Her name's Aelin. Aelin. My name is Aelin now. And I'm sitting here reading, I'm like, Selena is in the bar. By the end of Queen of Shadows, I think my brain is Aelin to Aelin, but I still say Selena a lot. Her name was Selena for 3 books. The very first chapter of the book is a Dorian one. There was a Dorian-sized hole in my heart throughout the entire story. The whole time I'm reading, I'm just like, I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. Second chapter in, we meet Arabin. I don't know Arabin. I haven't read The Assassin's Blade, which Selena made sure to remind me like over and over again as we went through the book. Christine, remember that time in the sewers when I almost died and Sam came to save me? Oh, remember that time Sam won that fight in the pits and got the money so that we can get her an apartment? I get it. Okay, I didn't read the book. Remember that time in my apartment where I threw that fancy clock and it burst into 1,000,000 pieces on the floor? No! So I didn't know that Arabin was a creepy ass mother. I was expecting him to be a violent, crazy sociopath, but not one that Selena wasn't sure loved her as a brother or a father or a lover. Uncomfortable. In my mind, Arabin immediately became Johnny Depp. I don't know why. I don't know when Johnny Depp, in my mind, made the transition from hot, funny pirate to creepy-ass middle-aged man, but it has happened. So Selena's back in Rifthold for the first time in forever. I don't know who to talk about first, honestly. The ships of this series have been flipped, turned upside down. I'm gonna start with Kale, and I'm sorry, Kaelena people. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if this hurts. I think it's safe to say Kaelena is dead and gone. That is not gonna happen. I mean, there's holes in my ship, but your ship is Titanic. Sorry. I'm sorry. That was mean. That was really insensitive, and I'm sorry. But you're wrong! I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Everybody doubted me. My original predictions may not be right because there are holes in my ship, and it's like half sunk. It's like Titanic before it cracked. But yours is further down, so I'm gonna say I win. Our first reunion with Kale, we're in those tunnels, right? Selena's like 50 feet away, 20 feet away, 10, 5 feet away, and then they just stop and stare. We were a couple, but we went nowhere. And this is another sign. She doesn't fly back to the good times. She looks at Kale and she sees the scar and she's reminded of the time that would separate them forever. A selection from page 42 of Queen of Shadows. Everything was an effort not to say she was sorry. Sorry not for what she'd done to his face, but for the fact that her heart had healed. Still fractured in spots, but healed. And he was not in it. Bum bum bum. Kale was a little bitter beaver for the whole first half of this book. He makes a remark to Selena about her fae prince that she ran off to. We were here all suffering and you were off gallivanting with your fae prince. And I was just like, bitch, you best shut your mouth right now. You have no idea what I went through. When Kale was like, I found a way to free magic. And Selena goes, what? How? I'm not gonna tell you because you're a monster. When he learns that she destroyed the vaults, because it was all part of her master plan.
Aelin probably had just been in a pissy mood and decided to unleash her temper on the pleasure hall.
Excuse me? But as angry as I was at Kale, he was the only one that was like, no, don't kill Dorian. Gotta have faith, faith, faith. Kale now has Nesrin. I like Nesrin. To me, Nesrin is Katniss. She's Katniss in the Throne of Glass series. Not just because she's really good at shooting arrows, but she is really good at shooting arrows, but her demeanor and her personality reminds me of Katniss. How cold and businesslike she is a lot of the time, but she does care. Nail. Kale and Erin. I like them. The Adarlan prison break that we've all been anticipating. Like, I was waiting for that Pirates of the Caribbean style prison break, and it did not disappoint. The whole thing with the dancers and the roses were actually like smoke bombs, and it was so cool. When we know about a plan and how it's gonna be executed, you can guarantee that that plan is gonna go wrong. But when we don't know the plan, we don't know necessarily when it's going right and wrong. And it's so wonderful. We get the scene that I theorized about in my Air Fire book talk. Dorian's got the collar on. Selena's gonna come to kill him, and she's not gonna be able to do it. Selena hesitated. I don't believe she could have killed him. We rescue Adarlan, and Rowan's not here yet. And Aiden is all fangirling about Selena's relationship with Rowan. Wait, you and Prince Rowan are friends? Apparently, Rowan's like super famous. Poor Adarlan. He's so excited to be reunited with Aelin and take the blood oath. As soon as we started talking about the blood oath, I was like, oh, poor baby. Oh no, this is awkward. It sounds like both of them are gonna be blood oaths. Maybe when Rowan dies, Adarlan will take the blood oath. No, hopefully they'll both be blood oath. Let's talk about Rowan. Rowan and Selena. We already know they're Kakarim. Throughout the entirety of the Air Fire, though, they're all, we're friends, we're Parabati, we're not gonna be romantically involved. Blip, 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 blip. Lies. We're also gonna sleep together every night and read each other's minds and talk telepathically all the time. The telepathic talking thing. I didn't discuss this in my Air Fire book talk, so I don't remember. Is that an ability that comes with being Kakarim? To mind text through eye contact at the Araban dinner party? Where they're just sitting across the table smiling at each other. I would love to see 17-year-old Selena meet 17-year-old Rowan. 17-year-old Rowan wouldn't know what to do with 17-year-old Selena. He doesn't talk to girls. He would be even more scandalized to know that she's not wearing any underwear. How are they communicating these words with their faces? I honestly wasn't expecting Rowan to show up in this book. I thought we were leaving him back in Terracin, not to see him, at least until we went back there. As we progress having Rowan around, you think to yourself, how can one even have a boyfriend when one has a Rowan? We learned pretty quickly that Rowan has started to like Aelin. Like, not just friend-like. He likes her. I liked Rowan before, but after this book, I really like Rowan. He's really opened up. We've really gotten to see his personality. He's really cool and fun and caring and kicks ass. But at the same time, I'm sitting here like, Solarian. I absolutely love the scene where Aelin takes a day off and she takes Rowan around the city and she takes him to the Royal Theater and she sits down and plays that piece for him and he cries. I was sitting there crying from reading it. And the scene ends with him asking her how she did that because they don't have pianos like they do in Rifthold. They don't have this sort of luxurious existence. Like, all these statements about how art is essential to culture hit my heart. The Araban dinner was tense as F. First they have Selena in her dragon dress and Rowan in his ensemble, and they're both looking at each other and checking each other out and being like, oh shit, you look hot as hell. And the whole time they're at dinner, Selena and Rowan are being lovey-dovey as hell. And they're just texting each other via mind telepathy. And Araban's just getting more and more pissed that his mean anecdotes aren't hitting home with his assassin slave daughter lover. The moment, I think this elicited the biggest reaction out of me in the entire book. And it didn't even come to mean much. And he gives her the word key. And Selena gets all excited. And we feel like she's off her guard because she just wants to get out of there with the word key. And Araban slips that ring on her finger and he cuts her and puts her blood in his mouth. And we don't know about her plan. We never know about her stupid plans. he says blink and she blinks. And there was a little part in the back of my mind where like, she could be faking it. But the bigger part of my brain was already thinking about what would happen if Aelin ever was chokered. When it happened, when that ring slipped on her finger, I gasped so hard. The chorus of no's flew out of my mouth. I literally chucked the book across the room. Overreaction of the century. I took a 10-minute break and then came back to the book and I read the next page. Oh, okay, I'm fine. We're fine. We're good. The more and more we learn about the word keys, it feels like a Horcrux / Lord of the Rings ring melded together. I'm scared of those things. I'm kind of confused why they haven't destroyed it already. And I guess they might need it to fight the other word keys. We also learned that witches come from Fae and Valgs mating together, which brings me to Manon. So much like the first Manon chapter of Heir of Fire, when she first cropped up in Queen of Shadows, I was like, oh, I like you, Manon, but not right now. I'm in the middle of something with Aelin, okay? Things with Manon, like you give a bitch a puppy and she's not so bitchy anymore. You give a bitch a little sister and she bitches down about 50 levels. She starts to care about another human. That's like 100 levels up from caring about a puppy. Manon's character development from Heir of Fire to now has been so spectacular. It's been so subtle, but so wonderful. As little by little, the human part of her is awakened, feelings start to form, but she's yet to confront them. There's this one line that I love when the witches go hunting. No children will be eaten, but everything else is fair game. Look at their cute little morals. I'm just picturing them walking in on a teenager. Oh, hey, wait, no, I'm a kid, I swear, I'm 17 and a half, I'm not legal in the United States yet. The showdown between Manon and Zelena, holy like one of my favorite scenes in the book. It blew me away. We know Selena can't lose. She can't lose. There's 2 more books. And this feels like we're going to the death. We're going down, down, baby. No street in a Land Rover. Death, death, death. We know how much of a bitch Manon has been in the past, but we've come so far. She's so close to having feelings. We want her to go all the way. And Manon goes down and Selena comes back and saves her. And we see from Manon's point of view and we get this one line from her at the end of the chapter. That queen had just saved her life and now she owed her a life debt. I was in the shower when I read this part and I literally like spun around and didn't dance. Okay, we have to talk about this now. I can't believe this is happening. The second it started to happen, I was like, no, bitch. You can have any other puppy, not that puppy. That puppy is mine. That puppy is for Selena. Stay away from that puppy. Manon and Dorian have this little conversation. Poor baby Dorian. He gets control over his mouth for like a minute. Back in Manon's point of view, she looks at Dorian one last time and she's just like thinking about him in a non-witch-like way. And I'm just like, no, 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 not that one. Don't you dare. No, it's happening. I can't believe this is where we're going. We talked to Astrid and we found out about her past. She fell in love. She had a stillborn witchling. She was beaten and almost killed by that stupid grandmother matron. I want to fucking eliminate her. I can't wait for Manon to turn on her grandmother. I was in tears hearing that story from Astrid and seeing Manon's reaction. Manon was like, what do I do with my arms? I'm just like imagining her attempting a hug. Is this right? It was so nice to see those feelings. But then she's like, what was it like to love Astrid? And I'm like, this isn't happening right now. I love her character and I love Dorian's character. But like, this is not what I wanted to happen. When Aelin finally got down into the depths of that mountain and she opened that door and saw those witches being raped and screaming and begging, and it was just so overwhelming. I couldn't believe what was happening. I couldn't believe it. And I was in tears, and then I was tears again with the Astrid scene. I've cried twice so far and I've cried for these fucking bitches that I hated last book. We meet this new character, Lysandra, and I love Lysandra. I love her name, and she herself is fantastic. I'm so glad she and Selena joined forces. I love when they first decide to be friends. Yay! Now we can destroy Arabin's life and eat chocolates together. Poor Lysandra has had such a horrible life. I was so excited when we learned that she was a shapeshifter because we knew there was something up with her and it was preventing us from fully trusting her because she could get into the apartment without anyone knowing, and it kept being like, whoa, how'd you get in here? And then Rowan comes along, takes one sniff, and is like, oh, shapeshifter, sup? When she comes in at the end as the snow leopard, oh my god, she's the best! I was in tears at that part because Adarlan was resigning himself, he was in front of Rowan was dying, and the snow leopard comes out of nowhere. I was so nervous when she had to kill Arabin. I was so nervous about her dying the whole time. If she dies, No. No, I'm so happy she's coming with us to Terracin, and she's gonna be part of our court. I'm upset that Dorian's not a part of our court. Who's just alone with a demon inside for an entire book, and now you're like, oh, we're gonna trapeze off to Terracin and leave you in the castle alone? Does that sound like a good idea? Does that sound like a good idea to anyone? And then Manon like flies over and like looks at him, and he like looks at her, and they're like, oh my god, feelings. Don't get me wrong, whatever happens with them, it's gonna be funny. What I don't get exactly is somehow Arabin told the king about Lysandra and about Selena after he died. The chapter starts out with Aelin thoroughly believed in ghosts. And then we find out that Lysandra's been kidnapped and Arabin released all their information, and I'm just confused. Like, did they find his old will? Because I thought Aelin burned those. Like, are we actually alluding to the fact that Arabin is still around in ghost form? The part where we rescue Lysandra and Kale goes off to kill Dorian, but goes the wrong way and ends up in the field of witches. What an idiot. What was he thinking? How can he go the wrong way? And of course Lena goes to rescue him. Manon says she's not in the mood to fight today, just to leave and take him. We don't see it from Manon's point of view, but in my mind, Manon was gonna let them go. She was feeling her feelings and she was like, just go. And Selena had to poke the bear. She had to make that remark about how she killed Baba Yellowlegs. What is wrong with you? Caitlin is with Duke Parrington, evil prince of the Valg universe in MAAS. She's a shell of a human now, but apparently she's always had magic, fire magic, and she has this shadow fire now inside of her. And I'm so happy that in the end, she kind of came back to herself and ended on a high note. She's dead. But she ended on such a nice note. She protected Aelin. She killed the Yellowlegs who wanted to die. She brought down a piece of Morath. It was nice. It was very nice. Okay, this was bothering me the whole time because for some reason, I thought Selena was full Fae. I thought she was immortal. She's only half Fae and she can morph into a full Fae. I'm not sure how that works. I'm confused because now we're talking a lot about how she's mortal. Are they just assuming? Do they not know for sure? I feel like she has to end up being immortal, especially if Rowan Selena is gonna be a hardcore thing. I know that sort of logic sounds really fairy tale ending-esque, but guess what? This is a story based on Cinderella. I had made my peace at the end of the book with Kale dying. Okay, let's be honest, I made my peace with Kale dying ever since book 2, but by the end of the book, I respected Kale again. I respected that he sacrificed himself for Dorian and Aelin. I cried when he walked up and sacrificed himself, but I felt good about it at the same time. But he makes it out alive because the Eye of Elena was in his pocket. Okay, whatever. But he's paralyzed from the waist down. And it just so happens he's gonna have to hunt down this world-renowned healer that he mentioned in passing 4 chapters ago. When he randomly mentioned that famous healer, Cesare Torblah, who lives in the southern continent, I was like, oh shit. We're probably gonna get backup from that country, that southern continent, because we need them in the war against the Val Dementor demons. The idea that Kale was killed by the king is what brought Dorian out of himself. This whole scene, I was in tears. I came back for you like I promised, Dorian. I'm here. It's me. Dorian was trying to kill her. And then there's that moment where Aelin and Dorian join hands and their magic intertwines beautifully. My heart soared. Everything came to a crux so wonderfully. The old world ends and the new world begins with Selena and Dorian. It begins with the 2 of them holding hands together on the bridge, saving the world together. Together they were infinite. Okay? Dorian is back to himself, but he's obviously haunted by all the shit that he's been through. I can't believe they're leaving him in that castle. They're leaving Dorian alone and open to Manon relationship. We learn a lot about the history of this world that we did not know prior to this book. The Valg demons were such a new concept in Heir of Fire, but it turns out they're behind all of this. So basically there's this King Arwen, king of all the Valg demon people. Lots of years ago, Queen Elena and Brannon supposedly killed them and used the word keys to banish all the Valg demons from this realm. But they didn't actually manage to do that. They just managed to seal him in a tomb asleep under a mountain that could be possibly opened in the future. It has been opened. The king and his little friend when he was kids opened it, and a minion Valg demon jumped inside the king, and the other Valg demon jumped inside the duke. And all this time, they've been steering the world back into the power of the Valgs. Back to the witches and the whole breeding situation. Got me thinking about how do witches happen? Because apparently the there are only female witches. So how are new witches created? Are all witches Jesus babies? Are they all immaculately conceived? But then we hear about Astrid and her relationship with that human. But would that witchling be half witch? Or would that witchling be witch? Is witch dominant? How do witches work? Another thing I heard a lot that started to make me laugh were eyes lined in silver. By the end of their conversation, her eyes were lined with silver. Is that slang for crying? When did tears become silver? When Dorian and Selena were saying goodbye again, send me any good books you read, only if you do too. My eyes were lined with so much silver. Obviously there's gonna be a war. Dorian's gonna be Manon's ultimate feeling machine. Hopefully the witches will join forces with Terrasin. We knew she was gonna do it, but I was so happy when Selena paid off Lysandra and Evangeline's debts. That made me silver up. Now they're in Terrasin. We don't know Terrasin very well. I don't have any solid theories like I had for this book. Manon Orion is gonna go down. Selena's gonna set up her kingdom. How does one go about assembling a kingdom? I'd love to hear your thoughts, your favorite scene, how you feel about the witches now. I'm Christine. Thanks for watching. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at XTINEMAY. All my other social media links are in the doobly-doo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye. There are 2 books, okay? Anything can happen. I don't think Helena can happen. That's dead. But anything else can happen. Stop and stare. You used to ship us, but we're going nowhere.